Hey everybody, good morning. How are you? Happy Saturday. I hope that your weekend is off to a good start and that you are good and safe with your family in your part of the world. And I'm just once again happy and grateful that we are able to spend this time together with each other, talking about data science, building our community, learning about each other, learning more about data science. So lots of good stuff ahead. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your weekend with me. So for those of you that are new, I'm still, give me just a second to arrange my Instagram here. For those of you that are new, we always ask people to introduce themselves. It's a nice way to build the community, uh, keep the chat inclusive, let everybody just kind of become one data science community. So let us know your city, state, province, country. It's what I refer to as our global roll call, where we kind of get an idea where everyone is from. And then sometimes I give an opening note, sometimes I don't. It just depends. And then I'm open to your questions, anything that you guys want to talk about. Basically the chat sets the agenda for anything that we're going to discuss. I still have the article from yesterday that I intended for us to discuss. I still have that ready to go. That is an example of where the chat really brought a lot of good questions, a lot of good comments yesterday. So we kind of got caught up in the conversation and we didn't even have a chance to get to the article, and that's okay, right? I love the fact that we can be spontaneous and that we can just talk about whatever comes up for the day, right? So that's the goal. That's what we're going to do. You're welcome to introduce yourself with city, state, province, country. Please start filling up my chat with your introductions, and then we'll go from there. As a reminder, today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, and Sunday is when we typically do our longer tutorial series that are a little bit more project oriented, a little bit more technical, a little bit more learning oriented. Not that you wouldn't learn on the regular streams, obviously, but it's definitely more of a class type of approach. So you're welcome to join us. Tomorrow we are on part 7 of our current series on creating a data science project from the ground up. Now, I'm not talking about doing a school project or a Kaggle project. I'm showing you guys how you would do a data science project from beginning to end in an actual, work environment, corporate environment, consulting environment, whatever you want to think about. So that's been our focus for the last few weeks. It's been going really well. We tend to go a little bit longer on Sundays, so feel free to come and go as you can. Maybe you can't make the beginning, but you can make the end of it, so on and so forth. But we start at the same time as this stream, 1500 GMT, and we basically just try to keep going and keep the series rolling in terms of helping us feel like a team that's working together on a project. It's been going really well so far. I'm really happy with the way everything has been functioning in it. So you're welcome to join us on Sunday for that. Tomorrow we're going to be making some pretty good decisions on the direction that our model is headed, and we're going to talk about different things that are part of that decision. So I think it's going to be a really good session. I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully you'll be able to join us. So again, if you're just joining us late, feel free to let me know your city, state, province, country. Just a quick way for you to introduce yourself and be part of the community. I've been really happy that there's been so many new people recently that have been volunteering and stepping up and introducing themselves. It's really nice to see new people kind of willing to take that step and introduce themselves. I've had people who watch me for many weeks and then they finally decide to introduce themselves, and that's okay. You can do it on whatever pace you'd like. But anything that's related to data science or anything else that you want to talk about, I'm here for you. The community's here for you. We get the community helping each other, which is always nice. And we'll go from there. So slow day in the chat today, but I do see my good friend Rex from New York City, who is one of my moderators. So Rex, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. Rex, there's very, very few days that you miss. So I I really appreciate you. It makes me wonder what you do for a living, Rex. But you're here just about every day, so thank you so much, Rex. Really appreciate you. I'm seeing a couple of people on Instagram, a couple of people on YouTube. So if you're out there, you're welcome to just say hello. Let me know your city, state, province, country. Really fortunate, really happy that I get to have a international audience. So, really excited to hear where people are from. So Maddie Muck Matt. Hey, Maddie, welcome. Hello, I'm Matt from Johannesburg, South Africa. Nice. Matt, I believe this is your first time here. I mean, I see you're over on Twitch, which is great. So welcome. Yeah, South Africa. Wonderful. I would love to go there sometime. I've been to Africa, the continent of Africa, but never quite down that far south. So maybe I'll find a way to get down there sometime. But glad that you're here. We get a few South Africans in my analytics, so you're not alone. And thank you for introducing yourself. Really appreciate it. If there's anything that we can help you with, Matt, questions, problems, issues, philosophies, whatever you want to share, feel free to do that. This is a good time for it. Because on streams like today is kind of like an open discussion where I just take questions or whatever people want to talk about. But tomorrow on Sunday, it's a little bit more structured, a little bit more of a classroom setting. But if there's something that we can help you with, Matt, let us know, okay? Let me check my chat settings here. Yep, everything looks good. Just want to make sure that all my chats are being picked up across my channels. Yeah, it looks like everything is good and functioning. Okay. So Rex, how are things in New York City today? I know that you live out there, and it's an interesting time of weather year for out there. Let us know how you're doing out there, Rex. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well out here. It's definitely gotten a lot colder in my area for the last 5 days or so. Some parts of Nevada received some snowfall, the first snowfall of the year this past week. I'm not quite far enough north for that, but who knows? Maybe it'll snow here at some point before the end of the year. But very cold out where I live. I'm regretting having to go walking later, but we'll see. We'll see how the day goes. Rex says it's sunny and beautiful, a bit chilly, but pretty okay. All right, good, Rex. Glad to hear that. Rex says I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Rex, I feel like I should be doing that more. Of everybody in the chat, right? Because sometimes I do feel bad that I don't ask that, right? Just as a politeness thing or as a manners thing, right? Sometimes I do feel bad. So I'm glad that you're doing well, and anything we can help you with, Rex, always let us know. Okay, so Matt says, "Oh, I have a question. I might set up a one-on-one session with you." Yeah, you're welcome to do that, Matt. Would be happy to help you. I'm a non-technical senior manager at a marketing consultancy. How should I go about building out a data science team? What should I read up on to get more knowledgeable? Oh, wow, that's really good. That's a great question, Matt. So I'm going to take it from your question that you don't have a team at all. Maybe if you're a marketing company, you have to be doing analytics at some point, right? So maybe you have some analytics people, but not a data science team. What should I read up on to get more knowledgeable? So Matt, I think you're asking a very interesting question, because maybe 2 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer, right? But today I have to give you a different answer because of AI. And AI, yeah, Matt says I have 2 data analysts, but not data. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, you're doing some marketing analytics, sure. So AI has changed a lot of the landscape to answer your question. So I'm going to give you some counterintuitive advice, Matt. I would say that you could probably benefit by going through a brainstorming session, not of what the team looks like, but what does data science look like for your organization? What is it that you want data science to accomplish for you? Is it about your internal management? Like, do you want to do like HR based stuff? Performance evaluations. Okay, that's one side. Another side would be like client acquisition, right? Do you want to do some data science around that? That's another another side, right? And then you could also do it on your deliverables, right? Like on managing your projects, finishing out your projects, producing content for your projects, right? So those are like three completely separate areas where AI could help you, right? Or data science could help you. So which one of those do you want? So from there, it's two questions. Which one of those do you want to pursue? And how much of those can you pursue with AI? Because AI has become such a useful tool that, if you're taking an AI first approach to all of this, then AI is going to be your first employee, right? So if you come to our Sunday classes, we do that, where we think of ChatGPT as our employee. We don't write code, ChatGPT writes the code. We don't always know the answers of what library to use, what technique to use. We ask ChatGPT first, right? We might have an idea, right? We can brainstorm out like the framework of the idea, but ChatGPT is the one that actually like does the heavy lifting on the coding and production side, right? So that's how I would ask you to consider it. How do you see data science fitting into your organization? Not by people, but what do you want it to accomplish? How much of that can you accomplish with AI? And then let that dictate how much you're going to build out. Maybe you need less people than you think. Maybe you need more people than you think, right? So that's what I would tell you, Matt. You're at a very interesting intersection of both your needs and the current times that we're living in, right? Because, like I said, a couple years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. So that's what I would tell you. Just, measure that out of how exactly do you want data science to help you. So if you'd like to do a one-on-one session, I can do some brainstorming with you, walk you through some ideas, some of the things, clients I've worked with in the past have done, so on and so forth. But that's what I would say, Matt. Don't think of it as building out a team. It's more about building out the uses. And you already have a team. It's, the first member of that team is ChatGPT or, Claude or whatever. I'm just using that in general as LLMs. But that's what I would consider if I was in your position, Matt. So I hope that helps. Starry Vibes. Good morning. Hello, sir. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well, Starry Vibes. I hope the same for you. Yeah, today's going to be a good day. Maybe a little bit colder than I would like, but, I took a day off from walking yesterday. My legs weren't feeling so good, but, we'll see what the rest of the day brings after I finish the chat here. But yeah, hope you're doing well too, Starry Vibes. That's really, Matt says, that's really great. Thanks so much. I'll think through our use cases a bit and then set up something with you. Yeah, sure. Happy to help you, Matt. I'm giving you the three different areas kind of off the top of my head. I'd have to know a little bit more about like the type of consultancy you do, what your footprint looks like to help you a little bit deeper than that. But, you can use those three as the initial starting point, right? Executives tend to think of just saying, well, I need AI, I need data science, I need to, do more with this. But there's so many different ways to use it, right? There's so many different aspects to your business that you have to decide on which one you want to use, right? So yeah, put some thought into it. If there's anything else I can help you with, please let me know. Sandy on Instagram. Thanks so much. Sandy, we usually ask people to introduce themselves. Let us know your city, state, province, country, and then happy to answer your questions. But, we do that to keep the chat professional, keep the community cohesive, and kind of go from there. Okay. I think I've also posted a link to the Discord. If you guys are not familiar with the Discord, I encourage you to join. I posted a little bit of information this morning about some innovation awards that were recently given out. And they were given out across multiple categories like AI, robotics, health, home automation, things along those lines. And I always find it helpful to look at those types of things because it gives me ideas. It gives me, it informs me on what's out in the marketplace. Maybe I find a new company or something that I want to approach or have a conversation with. So if you guys want to also check out the Discord, please do that. It also helps me figure out what makes sense as a solution and what can actually be vaporware. So I posted an example of that in the chat, in the Discord today. So if you guys want to check that out, I think that's also a pretty good resource. Rex, thank you so much for putting in the Discord link. Yeah, I think I might have used a different link in the chat today. Sandy says, hello, Sandy. Let us know where you're from, okay? Let us know. Okay. I'm Sandeep from India, working as a data analyst and trying to land a role as a data scientist. Okay, cool. You're in the right place. Sandeep. So Sandeep asks, any questions on how to learn time series analysis? Yeah, absolutely. You can learn it by coming to our Sunday sessions. So on our Sunday sessions right now, we're creating a data science project from the ground up. And we went through an ideation phase. We talked things out. We explored some ideas, using ChatGPT to make sure that it was something that was a viable path. And one of them is time series analysis. So that's one of the things that we are doing in our chat, in our continuing series. And this is all top of mind because I was preparing the materials this morning. I've been up since 3 a.m. today, preparing the materials for tomorrow. And the focus of tomorrow will be a lot on time series work, on our proposed time series forecasting solution. So if you want to come to that, that'd be an excellent way to start. Because that way you can see it in action, you can see it in use. And it also just exposes you to other models, Sandeep. And that's usually what I tell people in your position. The difference between a data analyst and a data scientist is they don't know the modeling side, right? Or you might use some models, but usually data analysts use very basic models or like level 1 type of models, right? So yes, if you want to come tomorrow on Sundays, we're going to do a lot of time series tomorrow in particular. So you're joining at the right time. You're asking the right question at the right time, but feel free to join us tomorrow for that. Okay. All right. So again, if you're just joining us, please let us know your city, state, province, country. Great way to participate. Just keep the chat inclusive. And if there's any other questions, anything else I can help you with, please let me know. I'm here for you guys. Today is a little bit of a slower day than usual. We usually have more people in this, so maybe there's a lot of holidays or something going on worldwide. Starry Vibe says we actually did it before and it was helpful. Starry Vibes, I think you're referring to the previous series on Profit by Meta when we did the time series. Yeah, that was helpful. I'm really fascinated by that library, that time series library, because I've done time series the old-fashioned way, and it's so much code, so much like adjustments you have to make, right? But with Meta, but with Profit, it's so much easier to be able to do that, right? So it's going to be really interesting tomorrow as we get deeper and deeper. Because Starry Vibes, one of the things we didn't do last time was we just kind of ran it to get familiar with the code and all that. But we didn't take it from an experimentation approach. We didn't take it from an approach where we were saving the model, saving the best parameters, comparing against a baseline, right? And that's the kind of stuff we're going to get into tomorrow to get a little bit more formal about the process. So I think tomorrow's going to be fun. I had a lot of fun putting the materials together today, so I think it's going to be fun. Sandeep says, may I know how to join the Sunday session? Same way you joined today, my friend. No different. No different. It's at the same time, 1500 GMT. So whatever this time is for you, come at this same time. But yeah, there's really no difference. I see that you're on Instagram. I would recommend you subscribe on YouTube because you can click on the notify button and that will tell you when I'm online. But also, I show a lot of code and a lot of slides, so it's usually easier for people to see on the widescreen. So you're welcome to stay on Instagram, but go to my YouTube, Data Science with Dennis, and you can click the notify. It'll tell you when I'm on, and it's a little bit of an easier view for all the materials, okay? But yeah, you're welcome to come, Sandeep. I welcome the participation because we get really good back and forth discussion on that. Denelson, our good friend Denelson from LA says, good morning, Dennis. Hey, Denelson, how are you? Hope you're doing well. It's so early for you in LA, but I really appreciate that you join in. Thanks a lot. Hope your family is well. Starry Vibe says, I'm really excited for tomorrow. Yeah, I am too, Starry Vibes. You know, I think we have a really good series of sessions going. We get great participation, and I know that there's people who only come on Sundays, which is great. But yeah, you know, we're gonna finish out this series. I think we're gonna need at least 10 parts, maybe more, and then we're gonna do neural networks, and then I think we're gonna do something around robotics and Arduino. You know, we were having that brief discussion yesterday on chat. I think Arduino might be the series after neural networks, which will be interesting because I do not put myself out there as an Arduino expert. I know the basics, but I'm definitely not an expert. So it'll be kind of like a learning experience for me too, right? So yeah, looking forward to it. Sandeep says, thank you. Yeah, no problem, Sandeep. Happy to have you as a new follower. You know, welcome to the chat. Like I said, if you want to learn, this is the right place. I try to give you guys real world advice, right? No cheap courses or any bad promises here. I give you guys real advice as best I can. Denelson says, I am too. I always have my notebook ready for the session. Cool. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Denelson. Yeah, it's been going really well. You know, I'm glad we did this series. I got to tell you guys, I hesitated to do this series about creating a project because I knew it was going to be long. I knew that not every session was going to be technical, right? Because if you guys remember, the first session, we didn't run any code at all. Second session, I don't think we ran any code either, right? But that's how these projects actually run. Like, that's the real world, you know? So I'm really glad I did it because for a while there, I was thinking, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do this session. I don't know if it'll be interesting. You know, but yeah, so it's turning out into a really good session. And I appreciate, you know, the good people like you and Starry Vibes and Rex that come every week because it's good to get that discussion, right? And I hope that in a small way, I'm giving all of you a taste of what it's like to work in a data science team, right? Collaboration is super important in data science, highly overlooked. So I'm glad we're getting that as part of the effort. I always have my notebook ready. Yeah, but you can also just watch it on YouTube later, right? If you need to take notes later. All my stuff is archived up there. And then I also put an edited version up on YouTube a week later for people to get caught up on the previous week or whatnot. So Sandeep, that's something you might want to also consider if you want to go to YouTube today. You can see last week's session, and then that would be a good setup for you to be ready for tomorrow's session if you'd like. So it's up to you. But we do tend to also go longer on Sundays. You know, you guys are crazy when you make me go 3 hours. I am exhausted after that, guys. I don't know how all of you do it or how all of you feel. But when we go 3 hours, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. But happy to do it because, you know, it's what I like, you know, it's what I enjoy. So again, if you're just joining us, feel free to let us know your city, state, province, country. It's a nice way for you to introduce yourself. Keep the chat professional. So feel free to introduce yourself. Or if you have other questions or things I can help you with, please let me know. I'm happy to help you, or maybe somebody in the community will help you. After today, I'm going to, after the stream today, I'm going to do some work for a consulting client. I need to do a final write-up for a session I had yesterday. And then I'm going to go for a walk with my dog, maybe cook my food after that, and then just going to enjoy the rest of my day. I'm still getting ready for the 100K stream. That's another thing I should mention. If you guys want to come celebrate 100,000 followers on YouTube, you're welcome to join me. It's still variable, right? Because I don't know when it's going to happen. I think it's going to be like Tuesday or Wednesday, something around then. I'm going to have a very long 12-hour stream so that everybody can participate. Everybody can kind of come and go. But yeah, you're welcome to join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not every day you get to see a channel go to 100,000, right? So we're going to see the numbers turn over. I'm going to have that up on the screen, and yeah, it's going to be a big moment. And then after that, we'll also have, when it arrives, I'm going to have an unboxing for the silver play button, which is kind of cool. Still weird to say that, but lots of stuff coming up this week, guys. And then in January, I am so excited about the content I have planned for January. We're going to have an interesting next couple of months here, guys. It's going to be good. So Sandeep says, just subscribed on YouTube. Very cool. Thank you so much, Sandeep. And like I said, don't forget to click on the notify, because that'll let you know when I'm live. But like I said, 1500 GMT. So whatever this time is for you today, same time. I try to be consistent about the GMT usage, because I know that I get viewers from all over the world, and GMT is one of the accepted international standards for time. So yeah, 1500 GMT, whatever that is in your area, your home, that's when I'm on. Okay. All right, guys. Is it Vishal? Vishal, let me know your city, state, province, country. I can't remember if you've been with us before or not. But Vishal, we always ask people to introduce themselves. So let us know where you're from, okay? Denelson says, I have a question. I know data visualization is important, but when is it too much visualization? What criteria is good to have when creating the visualization to not create more than needed? Okay. So Denelson, here's the thing, right? That a lot of people aren't always doing visualization in the best way, at least in my opinion. Remember that visualizations are not just for you, they're for the business, right? You are not a business team. You are a technical team. So don't try to make business decisions. The goal of a visualization or an EDA stage is to enable the business to do their own explorations and their own discovery. Because, it kind of ties to your question, right? You only think it's too much because you don't know when to stop, because you may not know the business side of that data, right? That's kind of where your question is rooted. So what you should be doing is thinking about what are some of the base visualizations that they would need. But the real deliverable is you giving them the tools to cut up their data and view their data in different ways, by different time periods, different product lines, different geographies, whatever, right? Whatever fits the project. But that's really kind of what you should be doing. It's not. The question is not that I do too many visualizations. The question is, did I give them enough looks at their own data? Did I give them enough cuts of their data? And by that, I mean data for them to play with. So did you give them enough time cuts and then enough geography cuts where they can come back to you a week later and say, hey, you know what? We found out that if you combine this time period with this geography, our sales go up 20%, right? I mean, let them tell you that. You shouldn't be telling them that, right? So then that's the question, right? Is it possible to give somebody too many cuts of their own data? Not very likely, right? You can definitely go overboard with visualizations. I understand why you asked the question, but that's not your concern, right? Your concern is giving them enough cuts of data. And can you go overboard with that? Not likely, right? I mean, because it's going to be for them anyways, right? And you want to encourage them to spend as much time as possible with those tools. So you really can't go overboard there, right? Okay, so Vishal says that they are from Delhi, India. Welcome, Vishal. Nice to see you. I think it's your first time. So thank you for introducing yourself, for stepping out and being willing to participate. Really appreciate you. If there's something we can help you with, let me know. But, to answer your previous question, there's no formal agenda today. It's usually Sundays where I bring the formal agenda. But today I'm just taking questions, talking, if there's different things you want to talk about, projects, articles you've read, whatever you'd like. This is a good time for it. Okay. AJ, welcome back. How are you? AJ, remind me, I think you're from Paris. I think you're from Western Europe or somewhere, right? Remind me, AJ, but good to see you again. So AJ asks, will traditional machine learning algorithms be replaced by neural network-based algorithms? Berlin, excuse me. Thank you. I knew you were from Western Europe, but yeah, thank you, Berlin. Will traditional machine learning algorithms be replaced by neural network-based algorithms? So AJ, you're asking a little bit of a complex question. And I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking on your words, because one of the things I always encourage people is that there is no newer, replacement, traditional, good, better, best, older. Those words don't exist when it comes to algorithms, right? Your view should always be that every data set's unique, every problem is unique, and you don't know where the answer can come from. So you have to try a variety of models. Like that's a pretty healthy way to think about it, right? So I'm not on board with you using words like traditional or replaced, or because they shouldn't exist. Some data sets will just be better for other things. I mean, that's or for other models, right? Or for other solutions, right? So I would caution everybody to be careful about that, because the pure data scientist mindset would say every model's possible. Any model could be the answer, right? That would be like the data scientist outlook. Now, having said that, you can take a meta view to it, right? You can take a meta view to it in terms of, well, what about the inputs, right? Can I pick models based on the nature of my inputs? Yeah, you can, right? You can do that. That's an accepted practice, right? So I'll give you guys an example. And if you want to participate, give me an answer in the chat, okay? One of the questions that I ask as an interview question is I ask people, what is a decision tree? And are there any downsides to using a decision tree? Right? That's one of my interview questions. If you want to work for me, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask you. What is a decision tree, and are there any downsides to a decision tree? Another question that I ask is, what is an LSTM neural network, and how does it differ from other neural networks? That's another question I ask, right? So, AJ, I'm on board if you think about it in kind of like that meta view. So does anybody want to give an answer to either one of those questions? Especially the decision tree one, right? Are there any faults or any dangers to using a decision tree? Can anyone think of one? Let me know. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think about that while I look at another question. So Vishal says, sir, how did time series analysis helps us in forecasting? Well, they're almost one and the same, right? You're using time series forecasting or you're using time series analysis to create your forecasts, right? So one kind of leads to the other. You can't get a forecast unless you look back. So they're kind of one and the same. One leads to the other. So Vishal, it's possible that I misunderstood your question, so feel free to clarify if you'd like. But yeah, I mean, time series is why you would do that, right? To generate a forecast. You can't do one without the other. So AJ says, lack of smooth predictions, computationally expensive for large data sets, poor performance on imbalanced data sets, etc. Yeah, you're on the right track, AJ. But what about the number of inputs? Is a decision tree a good idea for a model that has thousands and thousands of inputs? Because remember, we're talking meta level now, right? We don't want to introduce any of our biases, right? Because like when you're saying computationally expensive for large data sets, that's slightly biased because who cares if it's expensive? It's the right solution. We should pursue it, right? But what about the inputs? Do decision trees do well with large number of inputs? Just give me your yes or no if you guys want to participate in the chat. Just, what do you think? Do decision trees do well with a large number of inputs or no? It's not a hard question, guys. I think you guys can get to this pretty quickly. Hey, Matt, I just saw your meeting request come through. Thank you so much. I appreciate your trust. Would be happy to meet with you and we'll go from there. But thank you so much, Matt. Look forward to talking with you. It looks like we're doing it on Wednesday the 20th. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So Dendelson says, at my university, I glimpsed into a meeting room where a grad student was researching a way of combining decision trees and neural networks. I was unable to find his paper name. Would this be better for the decision tree? It depends, Denelson. That sounds interesting. Decision trees and neural networks. Do you know if he was doing it like as a pre-processing or post-processing? Like which one comes first in that plan? Because I could kind of see how that would be beneficial. Like if you use a neural network to categorize or organize some sort of output, and then use that output as an input to a decision tree, I totally get that. And you kind of do that in a lot of business applications anyways. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with that, but I'm assuming the neural network comes first. I suppose you could do the decision tree first, but I'm having trouble coming up with more use cases for that. So I don't know. Let me know if you have more info on that, Denelson. Sounds interesting. Rex says, I haven't enough experience to state an answer. Hey, Rex, appreciate the honesty. And that's that's a perfectly valid answer. Two, that's a very intelligent answer because we should know when we're out of our element, right? As data scientists, right? Don't try to give a scientific answer to your boss if you don't know what you're talking about, right? Danger, danger. But yeah, okay, Rex, thanks for that answer. AJ says, in high dimensional spaces, decision trees need to explore a large number of potential splits, which could cause overfittings. Sir, decision trees do well on the quality okay input. Okay. So I think most of you are on the right track. But the answer is no, right? Decision trees tend to do terrible with large inputs, right? That's what kind of makes them unique. You typically want to keep your inputs to a reasonable number with decision trees. Because AJ is on the right track about the overfitting, right? Because if you have so many inputs and you can have so many branches below, and there's only so many, possibilities across each level of branching, right? That at some point you do end up picking an overfitted branch. Or if you think about like an image, right? How you do image processing. Well, image processing, you're breaking it down by pixels, right? And you're breaking it down by pixels, and then sometimes you're using like the RGB values and all that. So it's actually like a multi-dimensional input array and stuff like that, right? A decision tree is terrible for things like that. So for things like that, you might say, okay, well, I'm gonna limit my search to models that handle better, that do better with larger inputs, and neural networks are excellent for that, right? So AJ, I'm on board if you're willing to do it that way, just to kind of think about from like a general meta usage. Like, I have this problem in front of me. Does it make sense? I have this problem in front of me. Am I going to have a lot of inputs? Yes or no? And then go and say, okay, well, here's what I want to consider because of the numbers of inputs. If it's small, maybe I look at this. If it's larger, I look at this, right? So I think those types of decisions are okay, but even then you'd have to be selective, right? And just make sure that, you're on the right track. Or like my other example, I asked about LSTM neural networks, right? So the model answer I look for when I ask about LSTM, I'm looking for people to tell me about the wastegate, right? LSTM nodes have a wastegate that other nodes don't have, right? So that's what makes them unique, because they're able to throw away information that they already have, which prevents factor fading, which makes them better able to handle data in a lot of scenarios, right? So there's white papers out there to support why LSTMs, because of the wastegate, do better for NLP, right? So if you're working for me and you can come up with an argument similar to that on why you chose a model, because I'm going to ask you why you chose a model, coming up with those types of meta answers, I'm okay with, right? If you tell me, hey, this is an NLP problem, and I read 2 white papers that said that LSTM is very powerful for NLP, that's why I'm pursuing this. Okay. Like, I'm on board with that type of rationale, right? I think I'm on board with that because, again, we're removing that bias of older, better, new, traditional, classic techniques versus modern tech, right? Those are the types of biases I would like for people to avoid. But if you approach me like that and say, well, we have a large number of inputs, so we're not going to use decision trees, or I know it's a problem, an NLP problem, and I know that this neural network structure can help me with that. Okay, that's reasonable. So AJ, I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. Feel free to add some clarification down below, okay? Denelson says, not sure when I passed by. I was only able to see a slide where both models were shown, but I didn't get to see the order. Okay. Well, let me know if you find out any more about that, Denelson. Because I could see the usages, like pre or post processing, but I see the decision tree as being more of a post processing. But I'm making a lot of assumptions, right, when I say that. So if you find out more, let me know. Osama says, hello, sir. I hope everything is going well. Everything is going very well. Very well. Thank you so much, Osama. Glad to see you here. Osama also says, instability, small changes in the data can result significantly different tree structure. Yeah, they can. And that problem happens when you have a small number of inputs too, right? Can you imagine what happens when you have a massive number of inputs? Like no 2 trees would ever be the same, right? There'd be so many variants. Like crazy, right? So yeah, Osama, but I think that's just highlighting that meta view, right? Like you can apply that type of rationale, but try to not go a lot deeper than that. AJ says LSTM is a type of recurrent neural network capturing long-term dependencies and sequential data by using memory cells and gating mechanisms to control the flow of information. Yeah. Yeah. So AJ, if you know that, and then you come to me as one of my data scientists and say, hey, this is the rationale that I'm using for why I want to pursue a neural network. You can talk me into that, right? Like, okay, fine. But again, because now you're not giving me a biased opinion. Now you're giving me an opinion that's kind of based in fact, right? Because I've had that happen too, where you have people who are caught up in the latest and greatest. And I ask them, why do you want to use a neural network? Oh, because I just read this white paper that talked about that may or may not be a great answer, right? Or because it's the latest that Google just released. They had a structure just like this. That may not always be a great answer, right? So I think you're on the right track with that, AJ. Just I would encourage everyone to don't discount a model just because it's regression and it was invented back in the 70s or whatever, right? That doesn't make it any less valid than something that was developed recently. Or just because a model I've had this happen, where just because a model runs on CPU, that's viewed as lesser than a model that runs on GPU, right? Like that's just a bias, right? I mean, the number results, the confusion matrix of the models doesn't lie, right? And it doesn't care how it was produced, like by what processor it was produced, right? Leo, our good friend Leo is here. Hey everyone, late but here. I think Leo was out celebrating Jake Paul's victory last. Whoever the blonde kid was. Leo was out celebrating his victory. In my mind's eye, Leo, I see you marching all over New York, being so happy that Paul won. So that's why you're late. You're probably out till 4 a.m. I get it. We forgive you. Starry Vibe says, I think traditional machine learning algorithms are generally more suited for smaller data sets, while neural network based algorithms are equipped to handle larger data sets. Maybe. What do you mean by smaller? Are you talking width or depth? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of important. Are you talking about width or depth here, Starry Vibes? And also, guys, don't poo-poo my regression methods. Do you know how many business people I've taught how to do regression methods in Excel? Like, that will take care of like 90% of the people that are calling you and saying, hey, can you help me with my data? Like, don't sleep on those methods. Especially if you're going to go work for like a corporate company, like a finance or a marketing company or whatever. Like, you can solve a lot of business problems with regression. Not everything's a neural network, guys. Not everything is a deep learning, massive network type of implementation, right? I mean, I know you get that because that's all Google teaches and Amazon teaches. But do you know how many people I've taught to do regression? You can do regression in Excel. And it solves a lot of problems. Like, I have yet to come across like a website analytics, right? Or like a traffic analytics problem that would genuinely require a neural network. You could probably solve it most with like regression, clustering, right? And I don't care how big the data set is. Right? Like, to me, that's not a data set dependent type of solution. It's just because it's not a very complex question, right? A lot of the business questions you're going to be asked to solve are not that complex. So don't use a big old hammer when you really just need a soft touch, right? So, Starry Vibes, I'd like to hear more of your rationale, on what you mean by smaller. But trust me, chat. Don't sleep on regression. You can solve a lot of issues with regression. AJ says, love these interview kind of questions. Helps us a lot. Thank you. Looking forward to more of these. AJ, I have a whole series on these. They're all over my Instagram. They're all over my Instagram, and I think I may even have a playlist on my YouTube. I may have a playlist on my YouTube. I'll look for it and I'll put it in the Discord. But you know, it's funny you mentioned that, AJ, because if you guys like these questions, I'll give you another one. And I've told this story a little bit before. And I'm going to put this in a blooper reel. I'm going to release like a behind the scenes blooper reel after I pass 100K. And one of these questions that I had posted, because I did a series of like 20 of them. And the series that I posted, one of those questions, and I did this when I was 3 months into this. And I had 13 followers on Instagram, 13. And I was thinking to myself, this content creation thing sucks. I am terrible at social media. Why am I doing this? I want to quit. This is terrible. And one of those interview questions in one weekend went viral on me, went crazy. I was on a family trip to Phoenix. I was sitting there on a Friday night, and all of a sudden my phone started like exploding with notifications. Like my phone was just constantly buzzing throughout the night. And I remember that I got back to the hotel and I had to learn how to use the like that nighttime feature on the iPhone to turn the notifications off. I never had to use it before because nobody notified me of anything, right? So I actually had to learn how to use it so I could shut it off that night because the notifications were going crazy. And in one weekend, I got like 2,000 followers. And in 1 week, it was like 5,000 followers. So it was off those interview questions. So here was the question, if you guys want to talk about this one. Java is one of the most popular languages in the world, but you don't hear about it being used for data science. Why? Java is all around you. It's in your elevators, it's in your cars, it's in your gas pump, it's in your clocks, your watches. It's all around us. Very popular language, but basically no one is doing data science in it. Why? Why are Python and R more popular than Java for data science? So that was the question. If you guys want to think about it, you want to put an answer, do that. But that was the question, that was the interview question that really helped me like understand that, okay, maybe I'm going to be okay at this, right? Because I literally had 13 followers on that Friday when I posted that question. And that Monday when I was back from the family trip and all that, I had like 2,000 followers. And then that following Friday I had 5,000. So that was like my big first time going viral. But if you guys want to give your answer, let me know. Let's see. Leo says, haha, imagine. No, I think you were out there, Leo. I can see you walking the streets of New York at 4 a.m. Paul. Denelson says, I was taught that even if a data set is largely complex, we could use PCA, LDA to use ML instead of using resources for neural networks. Yeah. But here's the thing, Denelson. I hear what you're saying, but here's the thing. And you know what? I'm just going to share my view on this one, guys. I am happy to be wrong on this one. Okay? So no one has to, take my words and as advice. But part of the fun or part of the benefit of neural networks is that you don't have to worry about that, right? Like you could throw every single input at a neural network. And because of the nature of the layers and the processing it goes through, it will decide what's important or not. Like it'll create its own weights and its own assignment of how important any given feature is. So yes, you are taking up some processing time there. I get it. When you're talking about using the resources for neural networks, but it's kind of supposed to be like a side benefit of it, right? So I don't know, Denelson, I see your point, but sometimes there's a speed benefit to being able to get to that modeling phase without having to do a PCA phase. Because the PCA phase is no duck walk either, right? So I don't know. You guys can give me some feedback in the chat about that, because I realize that what I'm saying is slightly controversial, but like, I kind of don't care. I care that I did feature engineering. I care that I got the biggest data set I could to start with. But after that, just throw the whole thing at the neural network. Right? And then the neural network will kind of sort it out. So, I don't know, guys. You guys let me know what you think about that one. You know, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm not saying that my word, you know, is the final one on that one. But I'm kind of okay letting the neural network do its own calculations and tell me what's important, right? Leo says it's not always about the size of the data set. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Leo. And also, like I said, Starry Vibes is welcome to tell us, are you talking about the width, the depth, right? I mean, what is size? What is a large data set? But my favorite XG boost is fine. That's funny, Rex. So Rex is referring back to the fact that that's another question I ask. What is your favorite algorithm? And if you give me an answer, you fail, right? You shouldn't have a favorite algorithm. So to your point, Rex, you're right. I didn't mention favorite. I should have mentioned favorite when I said better, best, old, new. But yes, there are no favorites in data science. Thank you, Rex. Asen? I think it's Asen Ali from Pakistan. So welcome, Asen. I think it's your first time, so thank you for introducing yourself. I'm gonna try to read your question here. Excuse me. Which has more scope, data science or AI? I think you meant to say or AI. Asen Ali, excuse me. Asen, I'm happy to try to help you, but help me understand what you mean by scope. Like scope in what? In tools, in solutions? And also data science and AI are not necessarily all that different, right? So maybe help me with some clarification, Asen, but welcome, glad you're here. Feel free to keep on coming back. Leo says there's a lot of factors that can determine which model is most efficient, or features, labels, tasks, and yes, data set size. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what, Leo? Sometimes you can just experiment, right? Just try the models. Just try them, right? It's easy to get analysis by paralysis if you think about the models and oh, I read this and I remember this from school and just try them, right? And as I mentioned before, you know, but I'll mention it for the new people. When I finished my when I was doing my data science course, the capstone project was to try 13 different models on the same data set. And for me, when I'm working with my staff, I ask my staff to show me 8 to 10 different models that they tried. So I'm just giving you guys the scale of it, right? But like, yeah, I mean, just run them. Run them. Just show me you use the same data set as the input, and then show me the confusion matrices for each model. You'll get your answer, right? So I hear you, Leo, but sometimes it's almost like a brute forcey type of thing. Just try the dang thing, right? AJ says Python versus Java, simplicity, readability, rapid prototyping, rich ecosystem. AJ, that is the most popular incorrect answer that I receive. Most people say that, or some variation of that. So it goes a little bit deeper than that. AJ says, when I learned about autoencoders, it blew my mind. Simple, elegant, and powerful. Also paved my ways to gains. Yeah, absolutely, AJ. Yeah, when you start, for those of you who don't know in the chat, you know, I know some of you are a little bit newer than others. When you start reading about autoencoders, that's when like things get real, right? Like that's when you're like, whoa, okay, that's pretty cool. And then also GANs, right? If you guys want to Google that, go Google autoencoders and go Google generative adversarial networks. That's what GAN stands for. You really want to get your mind blown by the capabilities of neural networks and like other things in data science. Like to me, that's where it starts, right? Like that's where you're just like, whoa, crazy. Dennelson says, I have no answer for your interview question. Oh, Dennelson, I won't be hiring you anytime soon, my friend. But I appreciate the honesty, appreciate the transparency. So guys, right now in the chat, the question is, I gave you an example of an interview question that I asked. It was the first question that went viral on me. It was the first question that really encouraged me to keep going in social media. I went from 13 followers to 5,000 in a week. Java is one of the most popular languages in the world. It's in everything you use. It's in your watch. It's in your elevator, in your car, in your refrigerator, whatever. But basically no one uses it for data science. Why? Why is that? Why are Python and R more popular for data science? So if you guys want to think about that one, let me know. I know I see more answers in the chat, and I'll get to them. I agree, Dennis, but it depends on what your goals are. Yeah, sure, Leo, absolutely. It definitely depends on the problems you're trying to solve. Yeah. To Leo's point here, you know, I know a lot of you aren't an old man like me, but if you want to research this, you can read about this. You know, one of the problems with early approaches to neural networks is that they weren't very explainable, right? For a long time, neural networks are great, but not an explainable solution, right? They had zero explainability. I know that's changed. There's modern techniques to do that, but for a long time, neural networks were a black box. You put in the inputs, you got the answer, and you really didn't know why, right? Too many nodes, too many calculations, too many weights, right? So in that scenario, that would exclude it from a lot of business situations, because in business situations, you need explainability, right? So to Leo's point, it can also depend on what the goals are, what the needs are. For a long time, you would do projects that you knew could be better helped by neural networks, but you couldn't use them. You didn't use them because they weren't explainable, and the problem you're working on needed explainability. So yeah, I hear you, Leo. Thanks for that. Read the news about AI Granny bores scammers to tears by wasting their time. Brilliant use of AI. Okay, are these the guys who call who take the calls from the phone centers, like the scamming call centers? I could see how somebody would come up with an LLM for that, right? Like a voice activated LLM to give like the granny type of answers. I'm assuming that's what it is. Let me know, AJ. But yeah, I hope they're doing that, right? Because the more time we can waste of those scammers, the better, right? So thanks for that, AJ. Appreciate the heads up. Starry Vibe says, I think neural networks can handle both depth and weight effectively, making them suitable for learning from large and complex data sets. In contrast, traditional models struggle with large weights. With large weights? Maybe. I think I see where you're going with that. Okay, I'm sorry, you wrote more. Large weights or very deep structures, especially when the data or problem complexity increases significantly. Because they offer extensive libraries and tools specifically designed for data. Okay, you're answering the second question. All right. But here's the thing, Starry Vibes. You don't know that you have a complex problem on your hands. You don't know that going into it. You may know that post project, post deployment. But going into it, when somebody hands you just like a plain data set, you don't know that it's complex. So I hear your rationale, but you don't have that information when you're starting out, right? It's only complex after you finish and not at the beginning, right? So I don't know if I'm 100% on board with this. And also, I mean, here's another thing, right? Coming back to your first comment, and I'm not trying to tell you guys that like regression models are amazing and all that. I'm not here trying to champion that. But I just want to put a thought in your mind. You know, one of the challenges I've noticed with regression models is that people have only seen small regression models because that's all they teach you in school. Y equals mx plus b, right? But you can have as many inputs as you want. That mx part, you know, the m is the weight, x is the variable. You can have as many of those as you want. Most people just never seen one, right? Because school teaches you maybe like three variables, 4 variables, right? But you can have like a regression model with like 300 inputs if you wanted to, right? Those exist, right? So think about that too, Starry Vibes. That some of this might just be because in an academic setting, you haven't seen any different, right? That happens. But I guarantee you there are large regression models out there. I know I tell you guys that, you know, you got to be ready to defend your results. You got to be ready to talk to people. And I share with you guys how I got beat up on a phone call. I got beat up on a phone call one time. And it was because I doubted somebody's regression results. Somebody had sent us like a huge table with all these regression results. And I posed a couple of questions to them that, you know, that got them angry and all that, right? But it's because they didn't know any better about regression. They didn't realize what was possible and all and everything involved in a regression model, right? So keep that in mind, that sometimes, you know, what you see in school, just because they show you 4 inputs doesn't mean it only uses 4 inputs. You can use a lot more than that, right? So let me know what you think about that, Starry Vibes, because I think part of your question might be rooted in that, right? You're only saying that the neural networks are good for large data sets because that's all that's ever been used, right? Or that's all you've ever seen in school. And the same thing for regression. You've only seen 2 or 3 variables in a regression method. But you can use a lot more. You can use a lot less for neural networks. Not every neural network's a massive network, right? You can have a neural network with 3 input nodes, 2 hidden layers, and 2 output nodes in the layer, and 2 nodes in the output layer. That's a valid use of a neural network. Not every neural network is some massive monstrosity that Google built, right? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Leo says, yeah, but it's important to know the why some would perform better than others. Not always, Leo. It depends on the problem, right? Like, there's some models or some use cases rather that need explainability because of legal reasons. That's usually what drives them. But other times you're happy to have a black box that is just super accurate. Like, who cares how you got to the accuracy? Just be accurate. There's plenty of uses for that too. So it just depends, Leo. But not everything requires explainability. Asin asks, which courses are taught in AI and data science, and which one is easy? None of them. Asin, on my channel and in my content, I don't promise easy answers. I don't promise quick jobs. I don't promise hacking the interview. We discuss professional data science for people who want to take it seriously, right? Data science is a serious profession. You wouldn't ask, which doctor course is easy, right? Because no doctor course is easy. Same thing applies for data science, okay? AJ says Java, more time is spent spending. Well, I think Starry Vibes and AJ are answering the question. Java, more time is spent on setting up the environment and handling type-related issues. Not good for quick prototyping. AJ, that's the second most popular incorrect answer I receive. And it ties to Starry Vibes' answer, because Starry Vibes says, because they offer extensive libraries and tools specifically designed for data science. Okay, so Starry Vibes and AJ, why is that? Why? Why are there more tools specifically designed for data science? Why? Those tools didn't fall out of the sky. Somebody wrote those, right? And there's reasons why they wrote them in Python, not Java, right? So yeah, you're giving me the answers, but you're not giving me root causes. Give me the why. The person who decided to write pandas could have started writing it in Java, right? Wes McKinney, right? Wes McKinney is the creator of pandas. He could have written that in Java if he wanted to. Why would somebody choose Python? Right? So Starry Vibes, give me the next layer down. Why? These libraries didn't just appear out of nowhere, right? Yeah, more verbose. I hear that a lot. More verbose was a very common answer, right? But who cares if it works well, right? And nowadays, verbosity doesn't matter with all the tools for all the aids for coding, right? Starry Vibe says, I'm not saying it's bad, just that it's not ideal in every situation. Yes, but again, you don't know that going into it, those Starry Vibes. The data set is not going to tell you that it's going to be a complex answer, right? Like if somebody from the marketing department approaches you and says, hey, here's our sales data for the last 3 years. Like that's all you're going to know about it, right? You can't assign a complexity level at that point. I disagree, Dennis. When you're in the modeling stage, you need to understand why you're picking a random forest instead of KNN for a determined classification model. That's what I mean. Are you talking before or after the modeling? Like, are you saying that you wouldn't try both of those for a reason? Or that you're picking one of those at the end? Let me know, Leo. And again, I want to stress this to you guys. Some problems will absolutely require explainability. Others, you won't care. You just want the most accurate answer possible. Because think of a situation where you could use a model with explainability, but low accuracy. Is that worth it? Maybe, maybe not, right? But just to kind of put a little more of an illustration on this, you guys can understand where this is coming from. So, in the United States, we all have credit scores, right? That track your payment history of your credit cards and your bills and things like that. A bank or a finance institution, they cannot deny you a loan without telling you why they denied you the loan. They have to send you a letter. They have to give you a reason of why they were not able to give you a loan, why you were not approved based on your credit score. So for the longest time, neural networks were not used for credit scores because you couldn't use a neural network that didn't give an answer, because that would be a violation, right? That would be illegal. You can't just say, we didn't give you credit because the machine said so. So that was a known problem in data science for a pretty good amount of time. Throughout most of the 90s, I believe. Even the early 2000s, I think. They would use other methods. I think some of them were clustering based, if I remember right. They would use other methods that they knew were less accurate, but fit the criteria for explainability. So that's kind of what I'm illustrating here, right? And then other times you're going to have problems around, sales or around categorization problems or around just general metrics, where people don't really care to know why. They just want the best answer possible. They're okay having a black box that just spits out an answer. So not everything can be an unexplainable problem, and not every problem needs explanation. Let me know what you think about that, Leo. Peachy Flava. Peachy, we always ask people to introduce themselves. Let us know your city, state, province, country. And happy to answer your questions, okay? All right, AJ says, about Java, could you give us a little more hints to the right answer? I'm not a CS grad. So it's not just Python. Python, R, and Julia, and I believe MATLAB. They all share the same common trait of why they are more popular than Java. I'm 90% sure on the MATLAB one. But Python, R, Julia, and I'm pretty sure MATLAB all share the same reason why Python is more popular for data science. So let me know if that helps you, AJ. Leo says, during the modeling stage, either on trying your first model or testing a different one, but the question we should answer is why and when one is more suitable than the other. Yeah, no, I get that, Leo, and I'm on board with answering it, but are you talking about before or after you do testing? Because the whole purpose of having that broad field of testing 8, 10, 13 different models is that you don't know which one could be better than the others. You can make guesses, but a guess is a form of bias, right? Like I've had people tell me that, and that's a horrible answer. When I ask them, well, why did you choose this model? Well, because we worked on a similar problem 2 years ago and that model worked then, so we're going to use it now. Like that's a terrible answer, guys, right? But that's kind of what I'm interpreting here, Leo. Like are you saying that you would like pre-select models? Because if you're talking about doing afterwards, I'm okay with that. But pre-selecting models to try, I don't know about that part. Leo says, Julia, we don't talk about her anymore. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, Leo's such a great supporter. He's always come to the Sunday classes. So he's referring to the tutorial we did on comparing Julia to Python. Oh my gosh, that was interesting. We ran into so many problems. And Python dependencies, ironically, on the Julia side. So yeah, Julia did not go well in our experiments when we did it live during one of the Sunday sessions. So I hear you, Leo. I'm not excited about user Julian either, but it does share the same trait. Okay, so Denelson says, is Java used more than Python because of the data types that you need to constantly be declaring and merging to create a data set, while Python makes this process easier? It's not declaring the variables, but you're on the right track, Denelson. I think you're on the right track. Sajad, welcome to the chat. We always ask people to let us know their city, state, province. And then we're happy to answer your questions, okay? Thanks. Starry Vibe says, for me, I don't know. Okay, I think you're referring to the Java Python question. If you know how they work, you're able to start with a good shot. Like, does this model work well based on the data distribution, data set size, and labels? Okay, yeah. So Leo, you're describing the level that I'm comfortable with, in the sense that I just say, am I looking at an unsupervised problem or a supervised problem? And then depending on which ones, what is the list of supervised techniques or unsupervised techniques that I know? And then that's it. That's the only bias or the only like presumptions I want to bring to the problem, right? So if you're talking on that level, like, pretty high up, then I'm kind of okay with that. But I would be really hesitant to go a next level further and say, like, oh, this distribution looks like it might be good for XGBoost, so I'm going to try XGBoost. Like, how can you say that, right? Like, there's a reason why we try them all. So it just depends on how deep you're going in that. But if you're willing to stop at okay, it's a supervised problem or an unsupervised problem, and that's it. That's all I know about this. Then I'm on board with that. But I don't know if that's what you mean, Leo. But let me know. AJ says, is it because Java is compiled language or Python is interpreted language? But that would be reasons to use Java, right? Java is compiled languages are usually faster than interpreted languages, right? So no, AJ, that's not quite it, because Java kind of wins in that regard, right? Like, if given the choice, you kind of want to have a compiled language or compiled output. So yeah, Python can be compiled and run line, but Python can be compiled and run line by line, whereas Java cannot be. Oh no, Java can do the line by line. There's breakpoints in Java. For some reason, people give that answer, but there's breakpoints in Java. You can do that. That's totally possible in Java. Leo says, not only that, what's the complexity of the data? Non-parametric, parametric. Which accuracy is acceptable? Yes, I think we agree on part of it, LOL. Which accuracy is acceptable? But you wouldn't know that though, Leo. You wouldn't, even if they gave you guidance, like we just want to be above 75% accuracy, you wouldn't know what model would get you to 75% accuracy. Well, let me clarify. You wouldn't know without giving your own personal bias. So, I mean, you're reminding me of that example I gave earlier, where I had a senior data scientist tell me that they were using the same model because it worked 2 years ago, right? So the part that I left out is I told them, that was my reply to them. I said, well, wait a minute. When you say that, you're assuming that your data distributions from the previous data set is similar to this data set. So you can't tell me you chose that unless you can show me some very deep EDA that shows that it's very similar statistics across all columns across the entire data set, right? Because you don't know that your data, your current data, is distributed differently. You can't just say, oh, it came from the same marketing department, so it must be the same. And that's terrible, right? That's bad data science. So even if they tell you, okay, well, 75% is okay, and even if you were to do the EDA, there's no way for you to say, oh, because of this EDA, because of these distributions, I'm going to use this model and that'll get me to 75, right? And then also in both of those items, the example I'm giving with the colleague I had, and then what Leo is saying, you're also committing the mistake of omission, right? Because if you only shoot for 75, then you'll only get to 75, right? Or if you're only shooting to duplicate a model, you're only going to get to that same model's results. What if you missed a better solution, right? But you're never going to know that because you never tried it. Like I said, it's an error of omission. And that's kind of like the worst type of error there is, right? Because you'll never know you made it, right? So, I don't know, Leo. Yes, no, we wouldn't, but knowing why I should prioritize X model instead of Y. It's not about keeping the same model for similar problems or just because they worked well in the past. But there is no prioritization. You don't know what's going to work. Like here's the thing, Leo. This process that I'm talking about, and this goes for everyone in the chat. I hope you guys are on board with this. This process that I'm talking about, the 10 models, the 13 models, I ask my staff to show me the 8 models that they ran, show me the confusion matrices, all this, right? Chat, that's the work of a data scientist. Like, why are you guys trying to shortcut this? Like, this is the science of data science. Each of those models represent an experiment or a series of experiments, right? Because you're going to try different hyperparameters within each one of those models, right? So like, this is what a data scientist does. Like, you're talking about like the center portion of the meat of the entire data science process. Like, if there is a time in the process to slow down, take your time, remove your bias, have an open mind, like, this is it. Like, this is the time, right? So like, don't try to shortcut this. Like this is what a data scientist does. Like, this is what you get the big bucks for, right? to create those experiments and keep everything organized and know what your champion model is, know where your current baseline is across all models and stuff like that, right? Like, this is the work of a data scientist. Like, you don't know what's going to come of it. That's the experiment. That's why you do this. Like, this is you sitting in the lab, producing the best work you can, having as broad a view as you can. Like this is the meat and potatoes, as we say in the US. This is the meat and potatoes of why you're a data scientist. Like, this is not the time for like shortcuts. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. Like Leo, I love you, buddy, and I love this back and forth we're having, because I love your perspective on this. But like, this is the data science work. Like, to so many of my people, like, this is where they have the fun. Because think about it. Prior to this, you've been in meetings, you've been in idea meetings, you've been chasing down people for data, you've been cleaning the data. Like, this is where the fun starts, guys. Right? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. AJ says, still thinking hard about Java versus Python question. Haven't gotten any ideas other than the ones stated before. Okay. So here's the answer, guys. Well, I'm not going to give you the exact answer, but go and Google the vector-based languages. That's the answer. That's the model answer. Okay. When I ask that question, I'm looking for somebody to give me something around the vector-based languages. Python, Python with NumPy, Julia, MATLAB, R, they are all vector-based languages. Java, C++, .NET, those are not vector-based languages. And being a vector-based language is what allows them to be able to create, to be able to do the data manipulation so quickly, right? And that's really the win for Python and data science, that the data can be manipulated so quickly, right? Your lists, your arrays, your dictionaries, you can manipulate them because of the vector-based approach to creating the language, like that's baked into the language to begin with. All right. So that's the answer. That's the topic you want to go Google. If you read that, that'll kind of open your mind to how different languages come to be and all that, right? But that's the answer. The vector-based nature of Python, of R, make it so much easier to use for data manipulation than things like Java. Okay, because I could have also used C++ in my example, or I could have used C#.NET in my example, right? Although I know some people will argue that you can't, that data science is being done in C++. I get it, but nowhere near as prevalent as Python. AJ says, thank you. Yeah, let me know what rabbit hole that leads you down, AJ. It sounds like you're a pretty smart guy. So, but that's what the model answer would contain. And by the way, that's a question I asked to kind of just keep things light and fun in an interview. I'm not sure that I've ever excluded a candidate because of that answer. There's much more important questions that I ask, but it's just something to keep things fun, see how advanced the candidate is, things like that. Leo says, yes, Dennis, but why some fail and some succeed? That's what I meant about having the answer for. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can, but only post, right? Only post, not prior, right? Like, if you can make a decision that's based on the confusion matrix results, sure. Just don't make it ahead of time. Imagine hiring someone who's going to try 30 different models compared to someone who has knowledge about what they're looking for. The second person optimizes the trials, looking for the right scope of models suitable for the tasks. Whoa, Leo, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. But I would hire the person with the 30 different models every single day of the week. 100%. I would hire the person with the 30 different models without question. So I think that goes against your point. But yeah, I mean, I would want somebody who's going to try the different models. because you don't know the answer. You don't know the answer ahead of time. And just to kind of put this in context for everybody, because this is something I talk about in my book also. Your professor gives you a nice, clean data set, right? The class tells you what you're studying or what model to use, right? If you're in a neural networks class, guess what? The assignment is to do a neural network, right? If you're in a regression class, you're going to be using a regression method. And then the assignment tells you what to look for, right? What answer to solve, what's possible from the data, right? The real world is none of those. None of those three things exist in the real world. No one's going to give you a clean data set, right? No one's going to tell you that the answer is a neural network, and no one's going to tell you what to look for, right? But keep that in mind, guys, because sometimes the academics can kind of shift your perspective, and you might think, "Oh, data science is great. They'll just tell me what to do and what model." The real world doesn't tell you what model to use. The real world doesn't tell you that your model is skewed. That your data is skewed, right? So keep that in mind, right? All you're going to start with is just data. That's it. So I want somebody who's going to take an open-minded view that, hey, the answer could come from anywhere. And this also relates back to when we were talking about domain knowledge, right? I mentioned this in some content before, but I'll repeat it again because some people are new. But there are some corporate practices that say that a data science team will never ever have contact with the business. They literally will segregate a data science team because they want to prevent domain knowledge or domain bias. They don't want the data scientists to know that last year's sales campaign didn't work, because that becomes a form of bias, right? So there are companies out there who intentionally want you to have an open-minded view to anything. And that's healthy. That's a healthy part of the process, because you don't know ahead of time, right? That what the answer could be. Whether you realize it or not, in academics, you are kind of being helped because you're in a neural networks course and your professor told you what to look for. That's nowhere near the real world. But keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. AJ says, any other questions that most people get wrong? Let me think about that one, AJ. I want to get back to Leo's questions. It goes, but okay. It's not about knowing the answer, Dennis, but having a good understanding of how model works and which ones are suitable for a given task. But that's a form of bias, Leo. You don't know that going ahead of time because you don't know the data ahead of time, right? The data is not going to tell you that it's left skewed. I understand your point of view. I have been misunderstood. Leo, I appreciate your perspective. But I'm really passionate about this because this is I think one of the biggest gaps that exists between academic and real world data science, right? That you don't know the answers ahead of time. Without you guys knowing, academics gives you a lot of the answers to your data science assignments or development, right? But in the real world, it's not like that. I mean, I know it sounds harsh when I say this, but like the underlying approach to you coming into a company is, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Data Science, we just hired you. We're paying you a lot of money. We're going to give you access to whatever data you want, and that's it. And you have 3 weeks to show me something. You get 3 weeks to impress me. Like, that's it. That's like going to be like the only guidance you're going to get. That's not easy coming from academics, right? But keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. So AJ asked, any other questions that most people get wrong? I think the one that I mentioned in that series that is the most troublesome is asking about the difference between accuracy, precision, and recall. I have found that that's one of those questions that I think just gets people like inherently nervous. And most of us know those things. We just don't always know how to express them. We just don't always know how to put them out there. Like in plain English, right? Like it's not something that you're often asked to explain to begin with. So AJ, I think that's the one I mentioned in that series, that it's the most troublesome. You know, people kind of tend to stumble around for an answer on that one. And sometimes I do too. I'm guilty of it too. But like I said, I think it's one of those things where you know the answer, you just never really like spoken it out too often, right? But I think that one is the one that comes to mind. Yeah, I think that's the biggest one. I'll try to find the playlist and I'll put the playlist up on Discord. I'm pretty sure I have a playlist on it. But yeah, I think I did like 20 or 22 questions that I use for interviews. And that was a fun series, but yeah, I appreciate that you guys are trying to answer the Java question. That one is super interesting. All the different answers I get. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for the great conversation. Really appreciate the back and forth. Again, you're welcome to join us tomorrow, Sunday, for a tutorial session. It's going to be a great session, really fun. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about model development, experiments, things along those lines. I think it's going to be a really interesting session. So feel free to join us, 1500 GMT. But until then, you know, I really appreciate all of you. Appreciate the discourse. It's healthy for us to talk back and forth like this, right? So as always, you know, we're living in crazy times right now. So please, you know, watch out, be careful, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you next time.